Yesterday, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth ordered military leaders to drop a few pounds. They told them to crack down on minorities who may have benefited from DEI initiatives, and they told them to prepare their troops for warfare in American cities. But what they didn't tell them is, you better watch your backs because the Pentagon is gunning for those who are not on board with Trump. And I have a breakdown of the troubling story for you next. Let's begin with some clips and reactions from yesterday's bizarre spectacle that featured a bone-spurred draft dodger and a former major in the National Guard telling career generals and admirals that it's our way or the highway. And on the other side, I'll share the Washington Post blowing the whistle on their order to the Pentagon to root out dissension and how they're going to do it.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future.
It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look.
Donald Trump actually said our new military will bring back new focus on fitness. I love the idea that Trump is lecturing these guys on fitness. I mean, if that isn't the fondue pot calling the kettle fat, I don't know what is. Listen up, generals. I want to make something very clear. The Pillsbury Dough president wants you to do Pilates. The only push-ups Donald Trump does are from the side of an ice cream truck. If you get so fat you start breaking escalators, you are unfit to serve in the military.
It is one thing to do what the president did today and evoke the enemy within when talking about fellow Americans. It's another to do it in front of some 800 generals and admirals from bases across the country and around the world, ordered to attend what, by all appearances, was a made-for-TV pep rally full of references to electoral politics and attacks on political adversaries, and previous commanders-in-chief, and former top military leaders. On top of all that, the men and women who sat through this were informed today that they and the forces they command could be the ones to carry out operations against that very same enemy within in American cities, some of which their commander-in-chief named today. All of this is unprecedented. Some of it puts a strain on the military's long tradition of non-involvement in politics, which is why you won't hear much in the way of applause throughout most of what the president and defense secretary said today at Marine Corps Base Quantico.
So that was ominous, and so is today's breaking story from the Washington Post that says a Donald Trump loyalty test will be carried out by the Pentagon. The headline says, Pentagon plans widespread random polygraphs, NDAs to staunch leaks. Thousands of uniformed and civilian officials would be required to sign non-disclosure agreements and take lie detector tests as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ramps up war on leakers. And here's the highlights.
The Pentagon plans to impose strict non-disclosure agreements and random polygraph testing for scores of people in its headquarters, including many top officials, according to two people familiar with the proposal and documents obtained by the Washington Post, escalating Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's war on leakers and internal dissent. All military service members, civilian employees, and contract workers within the Office of the Defense Secretary and the Joint Staff, estimated to be more than 5,000 personnel, would be required to sign a non-disclosure agreement that prohibits the release of non-public information without approval or through a defined process. According to a draft memo from Deputy Defense Secretary Steve Feinberg, a separate document also from Feinberg would establish a program to randomly polygraph those officials. The documents do not prescribe a limit on who would be subjected to these agreements and tests, suggesting it could include everyone from four-star generals to administrative assistants. The efforts are part of a wider strategy by the Trump administration and the Pentagon to ferret out officials deemed insufficiently loyal or who provide information to reporters. Former officials and national security lawyers pointed to already existing restrictions and penalties for unauthorized release of information, indicating these new measures were meant to further frighten and deter personnel. This seems to be far more directed at ensuring loyalty to DOD, the Department of Defense, and the Trump administration leadership rather than countering any foreign espionage, said Mark Zaid, a lawyer who has represented multiple whistleblowers and government officials targeted by the Trump administration. There are reasons why individuals were not required to take polygraphs before. And I would question why now the polygraph in an overbroad NDA is being required other than to intimidate the workforce and ensure tighter control.
Under Donald Trump's orders and with oversight by the underqualified sycophant Pete Hegseth, the Pentagon is preparing to make loyalty oaths and obedience to MAGA ideology the rule of law inside the military. And the experts are clear and united. This is not about counter-espionage. This is an act of war and intimidation against those inside the military who are comfortable speaking with their own voices. But wait, the authoritarian overreach currently on display is much worse. This according to former Republican Congressman Joe Walsh, who offers this very scary analysis as a result of Trump's gathering.
Donald Trump today, September 30th, 2025, told 800 generals from around the world, get your butt here on this military base in Virginia. And he did that because he is prepping them for orders to fire on American citizens. That is the god-awful truth. And at this point, there are two questions. What can we do about it? And will those orders be followed at the command level? Fire on Americans